Sadly, now I can't see your faces because I can see the screen, but I'm very happy to meet all of you. And I'd like to say thank you very much to Irina for inviting me to share this time with you, these 30 minutes. I think that what I'm going to be speaking about is slightly different from what she had in mind, but I'm hoping that it's going to be powerful for you. My name is Zої Smith, and I'm originally from a country in Southern Africa called Eswatini. It used to be called Swaziland, and it's a small kingdom in Africa. And I met Irina through Vital Voices, which is the extraordinary organization that I work with which is based in Washington, D.C., although I live in Denver, Colorado. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to give a little introduction of myself. And Irina wanted me to talk about what I've learned from and learned from women that I've worked with around the world. A lot of it is infused into this. But I also wanted to share the holistic life map methodology, which Irina knows very well. And usually this is a 2-hour workshop. So I'm going to share the sort of the tools and the idea with you. And I hope that that is going to be the most powerful thing that you can take away with you today. So let me see if I can advance this. So what I'd like to request is that you take notes, and I will share most of this presentation with you afterwards. But for now, write notes as I go along. So first of all, I think the thing that we've all learned over this period, in the period of COVID, from 2020 until now, is about resilience. And as you think about all the incredible women leaders that you work with and that you are yourself, resilience is the thing that gets us through. And it's about being flexible, as you're living that in this very moment in the situation that's happening in Ukraine. And what is keeping everybody moving forward is the idea of creativity and innovation and staying focused on being positive and moving in a positive direction, regardless of what is happening in the world. So I wanted to give you a quick snapshot of my background, which helped me develop this methodology that I want to share with you today. So this is a crazy, crazy career journey. I spent 14 years doing architecture in Swaziland, my home country, and the United Kingdom, and in South Africa. And I got downsized out of that work. And then at the age of 30, I spent a year as a water skiing instructor at Mauritius, at Club Med in Mauritius in the Indian Ocean. And I left the architectural job because I was downsized, and I left the job at Club Med because I had a horrible boss. I then spent the next 3 years working in a microfinance institute, and that went into liquidation. And from there, I went and did industrial catering for a year, and I left that position because I felt like I was out of my depth. I had been recruited because of my organizational management skills, but I felt like I didn't know enough about catering to be successful. So I decided to leave. And when I was in the Microfinance Institute, the number 3 that you can see on the screen, I used to do a lot of theater in Swaziland, amateur theater productions. And I did a big musical show that some of you might or might not know, called The Rocky Horror Show. And I cast a woman called Jenny as Magenta. And it was quite a big show for a small country. We had a cast of about 40 people and a backstage crew of about 35. It was very successful. And when I left the industrial catering company, Jenny, the woman that I cast in one of the main roles, said to me, "What are you doing? I want you to bring those organizational skills and help me run my handcraft business in Swaziland, working with artisans." And so I did that for about 7 years. And I left that when I felt like I had reached my glass ceiling. I had made all the changes that I was going to make. And the organization grew to a point where we hired a third person into management, but the company could only support 2 people. So I thought, okay, there are these 2 younger women and there's me. And who is making the most change? And it was the younger women. So I decided to step out of that organization. And we had been working with the World Bank, the International Finance Corporation. They had started investing in this handcraft initiative. So they knew that we wanted to launch a foundation. And so they offered to pay my salary for a year to launch that foundation to support those 700 women artisans and their families with healthcare, access to clean drinking water, and that kind of thing. And that was a contract for a year. From there, I went into doing consulting work for about 4 years, working three different organizations internationally on handcraft and small and medium-sized enterprise development. And at the end of that time, or the funding for all of that work came to an end, and I got a great opportunity to work with the Coca-Cola Africa Foundation. So I moved from Swaziland to South Africa. And I loved the work because it was like a bigger version of what I was doing in Swaziland, working across the entire continent of Africa. But again, I had a terrible boss. And so I left, actually. I got to a point where I left without having a job to go to. And I resigned from that job on the 31st of October. And on the 1st of November, I got an email from Elise at Vital Voices that I'd worked with before. And she said, "We want you to move to Washington, D.C. We have an amazing job for you. Would you consider it?" And so I said, yes. And so I moved to DC in 2013 and worked with this incredible organization of which Irina is a part, working with incredible women like you around the world, women who are making change in their countries and their communities. In 2020, in that first year of COVID, I decided I didn't want to stay in Washington, D.C. anymore. And I moved to Denver, Colorado in January of 21. So at the beginning of last year, I'm still with Vital Voices. I'm also writing 2 books, and I also teach indoor cycling, which I've been doing for about 24 years. So that's a little snapshot of my career journey. And what I learned along the way was that each of the jobs that I've held have given me the tools for the next job. And I don't consider any of those changes as failure. And one of the interesting things that I learned was to think about that question of succession planning. And if you're the founder of an organization, when is the time for you to step out and bring in new energy to help grow that organization and bring new ideas to the organization? And you can move on to your next great position of greatness and excellence, and you continue to grow yourself as a leader. What I also learned is that you have to close one door before another one is going to open for you. If you're sitting in that space of procrastination, thinking, okay, I'll wait until my kids have finished school or whatever, it's never going to happen. You've got to make the decision, and the opportunities will come for you. And you never know where your next opportunity might come from. You know, I never thought that doing a production of the Rocky Horror Show, a theater production, would land me in the space of women's empowerment with incredible women leaders around the world. That's something I've learned along the way. And one of the other things I've learned is that if what you're doing is negatively impacting on your life, you need to move on. And I learned that when I was working with Coca-Cola. You know, I had been going for mammograms every year to check that I don't have breast cancer, and I'd always had clear mammograms. And when I was with that boss at Coca-Cola, I knew that it was a toxic environment for me. And very soon after I left, I had a mammogram and they identified calcifications. And eventually I had a lumpectomy, and my boss's name was William. And when I had that surgery, I considered that I was getting William off my chest. And it was a lesson of really not staying in an environment if you know that it's not good for you. And that has shown up for me again in 2020, and Irina probably knows this. It was a terrible year for all of us. We went into the COVID lockdown, and in April 2020, on my birthday, I had my usual mammogram. Everything was okay. And then in May of 2020, we had George Floyd. I don't know if the story was an African-American gentleman who was killed. And he was sort of held down by a police officer who stopped his breathing, and it sparked the Black Lives Matter movement across the United States. And I found it a time of a lot of anxiety as we were starting to have conversations about diversity, equity, and inclusion, which were very necessary, but it made me think about how am I showing up as a white African woman in this space? How am I showing up to support my colleagues? And very anxious. And then my brother in South Africa had got COVID, and then he had a massive heart attack because of COVID. So you can see there's a whole bunch of things happening here. And it was just an awful year of going from working in an organization with 55 people to working home alone. Like I'm sure many of you did, you had to pivot your organizations, your work to a very different environment. In Washington, D.C., it was also a very divisive year where we were leading up to the elections. And I eventually got to a point when my brother had his heart attack that I thought to myself, what am I doing? You know, I'm loving my work, but am I living in a place that I like? And I decided, no, you know, that all of this anxiety was not good for me. So I spoke to Elise Nelson, our CEO, and I said to her, look, I'm loving the work, what I want to do, but I want to move out of DC. And she said, absolutely, you should do that. You're going to go until the end of the pandemic? And I said, no. And I decided to move to Colorado, which is a beautiful, beautiful place to live. So in about October, I started getting chest pains, and I went to see my doctor, and she said, I'm not sure what it is. It might be the beginning of menopause, but we'll send you for another mammogram. And I went for another one. And eventually, basically at the end of December, I got a diagnosis of early stage breast cancer. And it was early stage, which was great, but it was fast growing. And it was something called DCIS, which is breast cancer that grows in your milk ducts, but it's confined to that space. And so I was due to leave to move to Denver at the end of January of the next year. But as soon as I got that diagnosis, I thought, I'm going right now. So I drove out of Washington, D.C. on the 6th of January of 2021. You might remember that's the day that they stormed the Capitol in D.C. And I moved in with two friends of mine and had a lumpectomy in February, but they didn't get the clear margins that we needed. And eventually in March of last year, I had a double mastectomy. So I have fake new boobs. And I feel very lucky that it was diagnosed really early. I was lucky that I didn't have chemotherapy or radiation, and I was able to sort of resume my normal life pretty quickly. But along the way, I learned a couple of things. I learned that anxiety and stress can manifest into something really unwelcome. And I'm sharing this with you because I know a lot of you are going through this right now. That's that space of you don't know what's going on in your life. You know, you're feeling very anxious, but you don't know what the future looks like for you. And so I wanted to share this with you because I want to share this methodology of setting goals for every part of your life so that you can focus on being a really, really well-balanced human being so that you can be the best for everyone else that's around you. I also learned there's different kinds of breast cancer, and I learned not to be judgmental about other people who have fake boobs, because I've always in the past, I've assumed that if someone's got really nice boobs and you can tell that they, you know, they've had that kind of surgery, I always thought they were doing it for, you know, to look good, not thinking, well, maybe it's because they had the same thing that I had. So my lesson here or sharing with you is that if you are going through any of that kind of thing, really keep a check on your body, every part of your body, and make sure that as much as you can, you go for all of your medical checkups, etc., etc. So the whole idea that I want to share with you is about taking care of yourself. It's the best thing that you can do for yourself and for everybody around you today and every day. And so what I wanted to share is this idea of filling your own cup before you share with anybody else. You have to take care of you before you can do that for others. If you take care of yourself, then you have an abundance to share with everyone. And I love this expression from Benjamin Franklin, who said, an empty bag cannot stand upright. So you got to fill that bag so that you can be really solid and really wholesome. And to think about this beautiful expression, the words you speak, become the house that you live in. So if you think about the conversations that you're having with yourself, you've got to think about really strong and powerful words in your everyday. So if you're annoyed with someone and you're saying to yourself, oh, this person makes me sick, think about what you're saying. You're actually giving somebody else permission to make you sick. So you've got to think about that. You've got to change that vocabulary in your mind to think powerful, positive thoughts in everything that you're doing. I wanted to share a couple of little reflections before I share the methodology with you. And the first one, which I'm sure that you probably know, is this one: on the road of life, meet people where they are, accept who they are. And there are some folks that you need to leave behind and you keep on walking. So in this moment, if there are people in your life who are what we call energy vampires, they suck your energy, maybe it's time for you to think about spring cleaning them. Release those people with love and allow space for other new people that have got beautiful energy that are going to feed you just as you feed them, that you have a beautiful, positive, mutually respectful and mutually positive relationship with each other. This one I love: fill the room with love before you enter. This came from a tweet from Marianne Williamson, who wrote a book called The Course in Miracles. And what she said was, if you are going into a situation where you think it's going to be maybe a little bit uncomfortable, before you go into that room, imagine that you're sending love and beautiful positive energy into that room, and you will get the result that you want. And I've done this many times before. And if we had more time, I'd tell you some stories about how it's worked. But to think about that in situations where you want to create that other environment. A number of the women that I work with in Vital Voices call this my magic pink fairy dust, sending that idea of beautiful pink light into any situation. Or if you're thinking about somebody who's in hospital, send them that energy and their love, and they will feel it. So there's that. This is another thing that we've learned along the way, and it's about the power of mentorship also. The people that we agree with teach us very little, but the ones who push our buttons, that question us, are our real teachers. So think about the people that you're surrounding yourself with. Are they the teachers? Are they people that you're benefiting from and learning from? And do you need to find new mentors and new people that can help you grow into your next space of power and leadership? I don't know if any of you have read this book called The 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. He wrote these 4 things. The first one is, be impeccable with your word and choose your words carefully. If you don't have anything good to say, don't say anything at all. And this one, super, super powerful. And mostly when people read the second one, don't take anything personally. They think, oh, it's impossible to do that. But it is actually possible, because a person's criticism of you is a reflection of their own reality. So if you think, if you're pointing a finger at someone, okay, maybe I should do it this way. If you're pointing a finger at someone, how many fingers are pointing back at you? So who's the person who actually owns the issue? It's probably going to be like 50% of the time it's you, and 50% of the time it's the other person. But it's a really powerful thing to think about. Don't make assumptions. If you're not sure about anything, get clarity and ask for those things. And always do your best, and know that today's best is different from yesterday and is different from tomorrow. So, and you all know that so well in the environment that you're in right now. Just do what you can do and don't beat yourself up if your best is not the same every day. And you are more than what you do. And, as I've watched women in our network, especially like senior women, some of them, I look at them and I think, without their job title, where would they be? Because they get so attached to that job title. And what you have to remember is that you are just such a whole person. If you think about your friends and all the people that love you, they don't love you because of your title. They love you because of who you are. And so that's what we're going to dig into a little bit. And advertise your successes. You know, when you have some amazing thing happening, if you're shy and humble, share with somebody else and say, hey, would you mind, you know, sharing this on social media for me? I'm a little bit shy to do it myself, because that's the way you're going to build your personal brand. And for people to be able to support you, they need to know what you're doing so that they can help you. So this is around sort of like reflecting where you are right now. And these are the 11 categories, and I'm not sure if they're similar to the Wheel of Life ones. I think that the ones that I've added since you did this, Irina, would be number 9, 10, and 11. And I'm not sure if there's something that you have already included, but really, really powerful to think about also the pay it forward.
Yes. Could you reflect more on 9, 10, and 11?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So pay it forward is the idea of, you know, what are you doing if somebody else has invested in you in terms of sort of like mentorship and coaching and inspiring other people, perhaps speaking about your own leadership journey, things that you've learned. What are you doing for other people in that way? So an example would be, if you don't already coach or mentor somebody, you might want to do that in the future and commit to, okay, in the next year, I'm going to make time to mentor 3 young women in my community. So that would be an example of pay it forward. Or I'm going to volunteer my time to work in a hospital or a school, helping with reading, that kind of thing. Something where you're paying forward into your community. And from a Vital Voices point of view, we're always interested in when you are inspiring young women, young girls and women to become leaders and to see themselves as leaders. The second one is number 10 is family and friends, which if you haven't already included it in other categories of your life, what are the things that you want to do? And I'm sure that with you in the situation in Ukraine right now, this is something that is very strong for you, or you are all showing solidarity with your family and friends. But if it's something where you haven't already set goals, this might be something that you want to do. And then number 11 is our planet. So what are we doing? What are each of us doing to make sure that we are leaving our planet in a good place for the generations that come behind us? So that can be something as simple as using reusable shopping bags when you go to the supermarket, or using less water, not buying plastic bottles, those kinds of things. So those are the new categories that I've added in. And I don't know if you did this before, but I love this idea of doing the exercise of, if you go back to all of these categories here, and all the 11 categories, and you rate yourself on where you are right now in each of those, and then you plot it on a graph, what does that graph look like? So you can see what's your starting point. So in this example, maybe in health, you're not doing so well. So it'll help you identify where are those places that you do want to pay attention. And maybe there are some areas where you rated yourself low, but it's not something important for you. So you look at the areas that you want to prioritize, and then you work on those. And you do it in terms of the what am I going to do, and the timeline, when am I going to do it, and how am I going to do it? And then find somebody who's going to be your accountability buddy. So you can check in with that person once a month to say, okay, Irina or Anna, okay, Anna, in a month's time, you and I are going to check, and my top 3 goals that I'm going to work on between today and next month is these 3. And in a month's time, well, how am I doing and how are you doing? I think it's really, really important and a great way to support each other. So, and that's the question to ask, is like, what does my most beautiful future life look like from this point, looking at that graph, and where do I want to go? And then I've talked about the what and the how and the time frame, and then prioritizing it. So the last piece of this, which I love doing at the end of this exercise, is if you take all of those different categories and you write down all of your goals in the different categories. You might have 10 things in each one. In health, I've got 10 things. I'm going to drink more water starting tomorrow, 6 glasses of water every day. I'm going to start walking 10,000 steps every day, etc. And by the time you come to the end, you've got 110 goals. So then what I'd like you to do is you take each of those categories and you write one sentence as though you have completed all of those goals. So the example would be, I live a healthy lifestyle where I manage my physical, my mental, and my spiritual health, and I maintain them all at the highest level. And you do it with each one of those categories, just one sentence. And then maybe once a week on a Monday morning, you take out this list and you read through it to yourself before you start work. And you just remind yourself, this is where I am. And even if you feel like you're not there, this is where I'm going to. This is what I am manifesting in my life.
My question is about your scheme. I also tried it several times, but my plans, they are so big, for example, in health, because I want a couple of surgeries and I want to drink water and to do sports regular. So when I write, my ideal result is so far from where I am now. So that I give up many times. So what's the key to approach? Should the goal be closer to me now?
Yeah, I would encourage you to have different levels of goals. Maybe have some small achievable goals, some medium-sized goals, and then some big goals. So for example, if we take drinking water, let's say you're like me, somebody who maybe doesn't drink a lot of water every day, and we know we should be drinking 6 glasses of water every day to be ultimately very healthy. Maybe start by setting a goal of, I'm going to drink 1 glass of water every day for a month, and then I'm going to make it 2 glasses of water. You know, small achievable ones as well as the big ones. And I think for me, the power of this is if you write them down and you think about the big details of how you're going to do it. So for example, with drinking water, you write, I commit to drinking 3 glasses of water every day. How am I going to do that? I'm going to reduce the number of glasses of cups of coffee. Instead of having 3 cups of coffee, I'll have 1 cup of coffee and 2 glasses of water. Does that make sense?
Yes. This works for me. But when you have several goals, to increase within one goal, it's okay. Even from small one to big one. But when you have a lot of in the sphere of health, parallel ones, sometimes it could be hard to change between them.
Yes. Yeah. So again, I would say be kind on yourself and be realistic. Because you don't want to achieve your goals. At the end of the day, it's about, if you see yourself as a holistic person, you want, if you look at that chart of the 11 different things, ideally, we all want to be at 100% in 11 different things. And we're never going to get that, but we can lift things up little by little in each category. So I would say be realistic, but also be ambitious.
Zoe, and I want to tell a little bit more about Vital Voices opportunities, because I want to encourage the girls who are right now with us and who will be watching to apply and to win this opportunity to grow within your organization.
Yes, so if I'm going to type in the chat the website address, and please take a look at our website, vitalvoices.org. So we don't have a lot of programs going on every year. I think we've probably got about maybe 15 to 20 different programs, which are different lengths. So, there's a week-long program, there's some which are a month long, and there are some which are a year long. So if you go onto the website and you sign up, I think it says something like follow us or something, you can receive the bi-weekly newsletters. And in the newsletters, you will see if we've got upcoming programs. And I would highly encourage you to apply for our programs. We work in the areas of economic empowerment and entrepreneurship, human rights and human trafficking, and then political and civic engagement. So working with women who are leaders in their communities, who maybe want to stand for election, etc., etc. There are many different opportunities. So please take a look at them. We've also recently introduced what we call our Vital Voices Leadership Journey, which is a 7-week-long online course about women's leadership, about extraordinary women. And I'm hoping that we'll have a date to open up our next cohort in the beginning of the next year. And I also highly encourage you to sign up for that. It's fabulous. There's lots of inspiration, lots of great examples of other extraordinary women in the Vital Voices network who have shown us great leadership traits and styles of leadership that we can all learn from.
Can you give some kind of recommendation how to frame your application to increase your chances to be chosen?
Well, I can tell you right now that we all have such a large heart for women from Ukraine. So I think just the fact that you're applying means that you're going to go to the top of the list of being considered, because we are wanting to support you in any way that we can. Another thing that I would say is that we're always looking for different ways that we can support. And if, for example, you know of any potential funding opportunities where we could maybe partner with you and develop programs specifically for you, let's have conversations about that. You know, there are opportunities out there. So let's have those conversations. So I'm very pleased to hear that you did already a Wheel of Life type of exercise. Let me know if at any time in the future you would like me to do the longer version of this for you. I would be delighted.
So this one was useful for me. That's why I wanted to kick off the program with the seminar. So yes, okay, I will use the opportunity and reach you.
Thank you. And thank you so much for the invitation. Each one of you inspires me. And so please know that I send all of my love and my positive energy to each one of you as you navigate every day.